Hi, thank you for joining me. I want to show you about repairing locks, and you'll find that some locks, mine are kind of small anyway, but some locks get, some locks get to a place where they're thin in areas. And so, let's see, you can see that. Usually when it's on the end like this, I just pop that off. I don't even try to repair that. I just snap it off. And that's fine. That's how I do that. But sometimes you'll have a thin spot way up the lock. And so there is maybe 6 inches or so at the end of this lock, and you don't want to snatch that off. And so what I do with this part is I thread it back into itself. And here's another one, you may be able to see it. The spot is not that thin. Along the length of it, you'll see it getting a slightly thin right in here. Is where it's getting thin at. And so what I will do is I have 2 things that I use, and you can use a third thing. I have this crochet hook, which is really small. Sorry about that, it's hard to maneuver in front of this camera. This is a new thing. You have this small crochet hook, which I use to pull it back and forth through it. And then I have this piece, which I use to tighten my locks. This is their inter-locs, so I use it to tighten the locks. And then if you want, you can use a really large sewing needle. It's really more or less an upholstery needle. When you do that, you will end up shortening the lock quite a bit. So there is a large section in between here, and here you can see this one is close to being finished. Not quite finished. There's still a thin spot right in here. This area right here is still thin. And all I did, I'll show you what I did. You want to take the end of the lock, and where it's thin at, you're going to thread it through an area above where it's thin at. Just go right through there, and it'll take some doing. You'll have to do it more than once, of course. Let's see, just thread it through. And just keep threading it through until, what I do is I go up and then I'll bring it back down. And when you do that, it'll just make this piece right here, this thin piece, you're just really going to sew it into this part. So you'll go up and come back down, almost like a Z upon itself. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. So that's what I'm doing with this one. I went up the hair shaft here, so I thread the end all the way up, and then I started threading it back down. And so now you see this piece that's sticking out, and I'm going to thread this loose piece through this piece. This is a buildup of the really thin piece. And so I'm going to put it through this piece here, and then I'm going to thread it through this piece that's sticking off, and it'll in fact make 3. This thickness that you see will be 3 pieces because I folded it on itself. There it is. See how it's coming down? I'm coming down this way. So now it's still threaded through the end here, and I'm going to go back through in another section, and it's not super tight. See that little piece that was sticking off is getting shorter. Pull it through, make sure it's not bunching up. I'm just wiggling it to make sure it's not bunching up, and see it's only a little piece left sticking off now. See if you can see that. Very small piece sticking off now. So I'm going to thread it back through this piece. The big loose piece now is this is the end, and it's being threaded through that little piece I had sticking off. If I can get it through there now. Remember, this is a really thin piece, and it's through there. See that little, it's just a little stub left now. Barely anything sticking off. And yet again, I'm going to go back through that piece that's sticking off. And through the main piece. I'm doubling it back up on itself. And let's see if I can get that out of there. And there it is. And this piece still looks like a little thin piece here that's sticking off. So I'm just going to take that end, thread it back through here, and I'm going to go back up through it again. I don't want to see that really thin, weak piece, because I will be tempted to just snatch it off. See how it's disappeared. It's really thin. I just thread the end through the piece that, which is really weird, but, and I'll try and diagram it in just a second. Because it's interlock, all you're doing is threading it back and forth through itself anyway. And that piece may not lay flat. That's not trying to lay too flat, but there it is. This is the lock coming off the hair, should I say. It's coming out. This is the scalp, so that's the lock coming out the hair. Stick here, and a stick there. Hope you can see that well. And you have this section that's thin. So you take this in here and thread it back and forth here, back and forth through here, just like that. So you take this in and thread it through to the left and thread it through to the right, whichever way you can do it. And so when you do that, you'll end up having this thick piece here, and you'll have the thin piece folded up here. This is growing out of your hair. You'll have this growing out of your hair, and that really thin piece will have been threaded up through here, and then you'll have this here. And so, or should I say, you do like half of it up. I'll do this for the thin piece. And then coming off of here, you have another thin piece. And this is a little thicker. So you'll still have some thin. You thread half of it up. And now you're going to take this end here and attach the piece to this end, thread it through, and now you're going to thread it back through here. So you're going to take this end and you're going to go back down through here. That's how you're going to do it. So you go up one and down one, and you really will have 3 pieces. And when you get through, it'll be shorter, but all of this will be where the thin hair is. It's not going to look this thick. And that's really how you do it. You're taking a thin piece and threading it up through a thicker piece and then back down through it. So thread half of the thin piece up and then the other half on the way back down. And then you will have repaired the lock. The only difference is the lock will be a little shorter than the rest of them. And that will be okay. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.